10 Essential Brain Training Hacks. Every leader needs to succeed. Let me ask you something. Honestly, have you ever noticed how some people walk into a room and everything shifts? Decisions get clearer, conversations get sharper, results follow them. Not because they're louder, but because their mind is trained differently. This video is not about motivation. It's not about hype. It's about brain training for leadership, wealth, and long-term success. The truth is simple, but uncomfortable. Most people try to lead, succeed, and build wealth with an untrained mind. And an untrained mind reacts, doubts, procrastinates, and collapses under pressure. Elite leaders don't think harder, they think cleaner. In the next minutes, I'll walk you through 10 essential brain training hacks every leader needs to succeed. Principles used consciously or unconsciously by millionaires, high-performing CEOs, and wealth builders who play the long game. Listen closely, not just with your ears, but with your awareness, because if even one of these shifts clicks, you won't just understand leadership, you'll embody it. Topic 1. Train your brain to delay gratification, the mental skill that separates real leaders from everyone else. If you want to understand why some people naturally rise into leadership, wealth, and long-term success while others work hard yet remain stuck, you need to start here. Not with motivation, not with hustle, not with talent. You need to start with how the brain handles gratification. Delayed gratification is not a motivational concept. It is a neurological advantage. And once you see it clearly, you realize why it sits at the foundation of leadership, prosperity, and personal power. Your brain is wired to seek comfort, immediate relief, fast rewards. This wiring once kept humans alive, but today it quietly sabotages ambition. In a world of instant notifications, quick entertainment, fast money promises, and constant stimulation, the untrained brain becomes impatient, reactive, and emotionally fragile. It wants results now, validation now, relief now, and leadership never grows in that environment. Real leaders don't eliminate desire, they regulate it. Think about this for a moment. Every meaningful achievement in your life requires a time gap between effort and reward. You work before you get promoted. You study before mastery appears. You build before recognition arrives. You invest before profit compounds. That gap is where most people break. Not because they lack intelligence, but because their brain was never trained to wait without panicking. This is why delayed gratification is so powerful. It teaches the nervous system something most people never learn. The future is safe to trust. Warren Buffett understood this early. His success is often explained through numbers, strategies, and investments, but his real advantage is psychological. While others feel anxiety when results are delayed, Buffett feels calm. His brain does not demand immediate validation. That emotional stability allows rational thinking to dominate emotional impulse. Over decades, that single mental advantage turned patience into billions. This pattern repeats across nearly every self-made millionaire and enduring leader. Jeff Bezos reinvested profits for years, while critics questioned his decisions. Elon Musk endured years of ridicule, financial pressure, and near collapse before Tesla and SpaceX became symbols of innovation. These people were not reckless. They were neurologically trained to tolerate discomfort without losing vision. And here's the part that matters most for you. Delayed gratification is not about denying yourself joy. It's about deciding which version of yourself gets priority. The present self wants comfort. The future self wants freedom, influence, stability, and impact. Leadership is choosing the future self even when the present self complains. Most people misunderstand discipline. They think discipline means forcing yourself to do things you hate. In reality, discipline is identity alignment. When your brain identifies with a future outcome deeply enough, patience stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like strategy. Neuroscience supports this. The prefrontal cortex, the area responsible for planning, emotional regulation, and decision-making, grows stronger when you consciously delay impulsive actions. Each time you pause instead of react, each time you choose progress over pleasure, you are physically reshaping your brain. Over time, impulsive urges lose their authority. Clarity becomes the default. This is why leaders often appear calm under pressure. Their brains are not hijacked by urgency. They are not addicted to immediacy. They have trained themselves to sit inside uncertainty without collapsing emotionally. Look at modern organizations that last. Apple, Google, Amazon, and Tesla didn't dominate because of quick wins. They dominated because their leadership cultures valued long-term vision over short-term comfort. Vision trains the collective brain to delay gratification. It teaches teams to invest effort today for impact tomorrow. This is not inspirational language. It is neurological conditioning at scale. Now contrast this with how most people live. Constant distraction, emotional reactions, quick entertainment when discomfort arises, immediate spending instead of strategic investing, seeking validation instead of building competence. These habits train the brain to expect relief instantly. Over time, this creates anxiety, impatience, shallow thinking, and poor leadership decisions. The brain becomes reactive rather than intentional, and a reactive brain cannot lead. Here is the uncomfortable but liberating truth. Every time you choose immediate gratification, you reinforce a version of yourself that does not trust the future. Every time you delay gratification consciously, you reinforce a version of yourself that believes in growth, stability, and long-term success. This applies to everything. In wealth, delayed gratification allows compounding to work its magic. In leadership, it allows credibility and trust to grow naturally. In relationships, it builds depth instead of impulsive reactions. In personal growth, it creates mastery instead of shallow improvement. The leaders who build lasting success understand something deeply. Urgency is not power. Patience is. Patience does not mean passivity. It means controlled direction. It means acting consistently without needing immediate applause. It means choosing actions aligned with long-term values rather than short-term emotions. Ask yourself honestly, where does your brain demand instant relief? When challenges appear, do you escape into distraction? When progress feels slow, do you abandon the process? When results don't show up fast, do you doubt yourself? These reactions are not character flaws. They are training results, and anything trained can be retrained. The shift begins when you stop asking, "What feels good right now?" and start asking, "What builds the future I want to live in?" That question alone interrupts impulsive behavior and activates leadership thinking. Over time, your brain starts releasing satisfaction not from comfort, but from progress. This is when discipline becomes natural instead of exhausting. This is also why delayed gratification increases confidence. Confidence is not loudness or arrogance. Confidence is internal stability. It is the calm certainty that you can stay consistent even when rewards are delayed. That certainty makes you trustworthy. People feel it. Teams follow it. Opportunities align with it. The world rewards those who can think long-term in a short-term obsessed culture. Leaders who master delayed gratification are not rushed by trends, pressure, or opinions. They move deliberately, strategically, calmly. That calm is not weakness. It is power under control. And here's the final realization that changes everything. Every time you delay gratification, you are voting for the leader you are becoming. You are telling your brain, "I am someone who plays the long game." Over time, this identity solidifies. You no longer need motivation. You become grounded. You become decisive. You become stable in uncertainty. That is real leadership. That is real wealth thinking. That is the foundation of success, abundance, and prosperity that lasts beyond trends, beyond hype, beyond luck. Once your brain learns that waiting is not dangerous but powerful, nothing can rush you into the wrong decisions again. And from that place, leadership stops being something you try to do and becomes something you naturally embody. Topic 2. Master your attention or lose your leadership. Why focus is the new form of power. If delayed gratification teaches your brain to trust the future, then mastering attention teaches your brain to command the present. And without command of the present moment, leadership collapses, quietly, gradually, invisibly. Here's a truth most people don't want to hear. In today's world, leadership is not defeated by competition. It is defeated by distraction. The modern brain is under attack. Notifications, messages, feeds, breaking news, endless content, constant stimulation. Every ping pulls your attention away from what actually matters. And attention is not a neutral resource. Attention is energy. Attention is decision-making fuel. Attention is life direction. Where your attention goes, your future follows. Most people believe they have an attention problem. In reality, they have a leadership problem over their own mind. They don't choose what they focus on. They react to what demands them. And a reactive mind cannot build wealth, influence, or vision. Great leaders understand something instinctively. If you don't control your attention, someone else will. And whoever controls attention controls behavior. Think about the leaders and entrepreneurs who changed industries. Steve Jobs was known for ruthless focus. He wasn't just selective about products, he was selective about attention. Apple didn't win by doing more. It won by doing less, better, and with absolute clarity. That wasn't a design decision. It was a mental discipline. Jobs once said that deciding what not to do is as important as deciding what to do. That statement reveals elite attention control, the ability to say no internally before saying no externally, the ability to protect mental bandwidth so vision doesn't get diluted. Now look at the opposite pattern. A scattered mind jumps between ideas, emotions, and tasks. It starts things but doesn't finish. It feels busy but not effective. It confuses motion with progress. And over time, it loses confidence. Not because it's incapable, but because it never experiences the deep satisfaction of completion. Focus creates confidence. Distraction erodes it. Neuroscience explains why this matters so deeply. Every time you shift attention rapidly, your brain pays a metabolic cost. Decision fatigue increases, emotional regulation weakens, impulses gain power, the mind becomes noisy, and in noise, leadership disappears. This is why leaders who cannot focus become reactive managers instead of visionary builders. They spend their days responding instead of creating. They mistake urgency for importance. They feel exhausted without knowing why. Now here's the critical insight. Attention is not just about productivity. Attention is about identity. What you consistently focus on shapes how you think, how you feel, and how you decide. Over time, attention trains the brain to value certain outcomes over others. If your attention is constantly fragmented, your identity becomes fragmented. If your attention is trained, your identity becomes solid. High-performing leaders protect their attention like capital, because it is capital. Elon Musk is often described as intense, obsessive, even extreme. But what people miss is that his intensity is focused. When Musk commits attention to a problem, he goes deep. Not surface-level thinking, not scattered research, deep immersion. That depth is where breakthroughs happen. That depth is unavailable to distracted minds. And here's the uncomfortable truth. You cannot build extraordinary success with average focus. The brain cannot multitask effectively. It only switches tasks rapidly, losing efficiency each time. Leaders who attempt to do everything at once slowly dilute their impact. Leaders who concentrate attention amplify results. This is why the richest people are not the busiest people. They are the clearest people. Now let's bring this to your life. Ask yourself honestly, how often do you choose your focus versus letting it be chosen for you? How often do you sit with a single problem long enough to solve it deeply? How often do you allow boredom, silence, or discomfort without escaping into stimulation? Most people fear silence because silence reveals lack of direction. But leaders use silence to sharpen direction. Training attention begins with a radical shift. You stop seeing distraction as harmless and start seeing it as leadership erosion. Every unnecessary distraction steals a piece of your future, not dramatically, incrementally. And incremental losses are the most dangerous because they go unnoticed. Here's the powerful reframe. Focus is not intensity. Focus is commitment. Commitment to finishing what you start. Commitment to thinking deeply instead of reacting quickly. Commitment to choosing meaning over novelty. When leaders commit attention, something extraordinary happens. Time seems to expand. Decisions become cleaner. Emotional reactions slow down. Creativity increases. Solutions emerge that were invisible before. This is not mystical. It is neurological alignment. Companies like Google understand this at a structural level. That's why they protect deep work, long-term projects, and focused innovation cycles. They know that breakthrough ideas don't come from constant interruption. They come from sustained attention. And the same applies to wealth. Building wealth requires sustained focus on systems, not emotions. The distracted investor panics. The focused investor plans. The distracted entrepreneur chases trends. The focused entrepreneur builds assets. The distracted leader seeks approval. The focused leader builds trust. Focus is the difference. Now here's the paradox most people struggle with. When you first train attention, discomfort increases. The brain resists. It wants stimulation. It wants escape. This is normal. It means you are breaking an addiction to novelty. But if you stay with it, something powerful emerges. Calm, presence, authority, inner quiet. That inner quiet is not emptiness. It is clarity. This is why leaders who master focus often speak less, but say more. Their words carry weight because their mind is not cluttered. Their decisions feel grounded because they come from depth, not noise. Attention mastery also transforms emotional intelligence. When you are focused, emotions don't control you. You notice them without obeying them. You respond instead of react. That alone changes how people experience you as a leader. People trust those who are present. Presence is rare today, and rarity creates value. Here is the defining question every leader must ask themselves. Am I consuming information, or am I creating direction? Am I reacting to the world, or am I shaping it? The moment you reclaim your attention, you reclaim your leadership. And once you experience what deep focus feels like, real focus, not forced focus, you realize something profound. You don't need more ideas. You need fewer, better ones. You don't need more effort. You need more alignment. This is why focus compounds. A focused year beats 10 distracted ones. A focused leader outperforms 100 scattered competitors. A focused mind builds momentum that distraction can never match. And here's the final realization that anchors this lesson. Your attention is your life in motion. Whatever consistently holds it will shape who you become. Leaders don't leave that to chance. They decide, they protect, they train. Once your brain learns to stay with what matters, distraction loses its power. And when distraction loses power, leadership takes its place. Topic 3. Reprogram your self-image or your results will never change. Why leadership starts with identity. Everything you achieve in life is filtered through one invisible force that most people never question: how you see yourself. Not your goals, not your intentions, not even your habits, your self-image. And until a leader understands this, effort will always feel heavier than it should. Progress will feel slower than it needs to be, and success will remain fragile. Your brain is constantly working to keep your behavior consistent with your identity. This is not philosophy. This is neuroscience. The mind does not ask, "What do I want?" first. It asks, "Who am I?" And then it looks for actions that match that answer. This is why so many intelligent, talented people sabotage their own growth without realizing it. They say they want success, wealth, influence, or leadership, but their self-image is still aligned with limitation, hesitation, or survival. The brain will always defend identity, even when identity is outdated. Real leaders understand this early, whether consciously or instinctively. They don't just set goals, they upgrade their identity. Think about someone like Oprah Winfrey. Her success was not the result of one opportunity or one breakthrough moment. It was the result of a radical internal shift. Long before the world validated her, she saw herself as someone with a voice that mattered. That self-image guided her choices, her resilience, and her ability to stay grounded in adversity. The external success followed the internal alignment. This is how identity works. Your self-image sets the upper limit of your performance. It defines what feels normal, what feels possible, and what feels threatening. When success exceeds self-image, discomfort appears, doubt appears, self-sabotage appears. Not because you are afraid of failure, but because your brain is afraid of inconsistency. This is why sudden success often collapses for people who haven't upgraded their identity. The brain tries to return to familiar ground. Comfort beats ambition when identity isn't aligned. Leadership begins the moment you realize this and decide to take responsibility for how you see yourself. Most people let identity form passively: past experiences, childhood conditioning, cultural expectations, failures interpreted as truth. Over time, these narratives become internal rules. I'm not that kind of person. People like me don't lead. I'm better at supporting than deciding. These thoughts feel real because they are rehearsed, not because they are true. Neuroscience shows that the brain strengthens whatever story is repeated emotionally. Identity is not fixed, it is practiced. Look at leaders who reinvented themselves. Satya Nadella transformed Microsoft not by changing products first, but by changing identity. He shifted the company from a fixed mindset culture to a growth mindset culture. That identity shift unlocked innovation, collaboration, and long-term value. Results followed identity. And the same principle applies at an individual level. When you change how you see yourself, decisions change automatically. You don't force new behaviors, they emerge naturally. A person who sees themselves as a leader doesn't need motivation to take responsibility. A person who sees themselves as capable doesn't need permission to act. A person who sees themselves as abundant doesn't panic under pressure. This is why affirmations fail for most people. Not because they are useless, but because they are disconnected from identity evidence. The brain rejects statements that conflict too strongly with its current self-image. Leadership identity must be built through aligned action, not just positive words. Reprogramming self-image is about creating internal consistency between belief and behavior. Here's the shift that changes everything. Instead of asking, "What do I need to achieve?" leaders ask, "Who do I need to become so this feels natural?" That question activates identity-based growth. It moves leadership from effort to embodiment. Think about the leaders you respect most. They don't appear to be trying to lead. They simply do. Their presence feels grounded. Their decisions feel stable. That's identity in action. The brain craves coherence. When your actions align with your self-image, energy increases. When they don't, resistance appears. This is why trying to behave like a leader without seeing yourself as one feels exhausting. The brain is fighting itself. Self-image also determines how you interpret feedback. A fragile identity takes feedback personally. A strong identity uses feedback strategically. Leaders with stable self-image grow faster because their ego doesn't block learning. This is critical for wealth and success. People with a scarcity identity see money as stress. People with an abundance identity see money as a tool. The difference is not income, it's interpretation, and interpretation shapes decisions. Think of Ray Dalio, founder of Bridgewater Associates. His success wasn't built on avoiding mistakes. It was built on radical transparency and identity clarity. He saw himself as a lifelong learner, not as someone who needed to be right. That identity allowed him to build one of the most successful investment firms in the world. Now bring this back to your life. Ask yourself, quietly and honestly, how do I currently see myself? As someone who leads or someone who waits? As someone who creates or someone who reacts? As someone who trusts themselves or someone who constantly doubts? This awareness is not judgment. It is power. Once you see your current self-image, you can begin to upgrade it deliberately. And the upgrade does not happen through pretending. It happens through small, consistent acts that confirm a new identity. Each time you act in alignment with the leader you want to become, your brain takes note. Neural pathways strengthen. Confidence grows. Over time, the new identity becomes automatic. This is why leadership development fails when it focuses only on skills. Skills without identity collapse under pressure. Identity carries skills when pressure rises. Reprogramming self-image also dissolves fear. Fear is often not about the situation. It's about identity threat. When you identify as capable, challenges become puzzles instead of dangers. When you identify as resilient, setbacks become feedback instead of failure. This shift changes how others experience you. People respond to identity more than words. They feel whether you see yourself as a leader before you ever speak. And here is the final truth that anchors this topic. You will never outperform your self-image consistently. You can get lucky once, you can push temporarily, but lasting success requires identity alignment. The moment you consciously choose who you are becoming, leadership stops being a role you play and becomes a state you live from. Effort decreases, clarity increases, results follow. Reprogram your self-image, and everything else, focus, discipline, confidence, wealth, has room to grow. Topic 4. Regulate your emotions or they will silently control your leadership. The inner stability that defines power. If you want to understand why some leaders stay clear and decisive under pressure, while others collapse emotionally, react impulsively, or lose trust, the answer is not intelligence, experience, or authority. The answer is emotional regulation. Leadership is not tested when things are easy. It is revealed when uncertainty, pressure, and resistance appear at the same time. Your emotions are not the enemy, but unmanaged emotions are. Every human brain is designed to react emotionally first. This kept our ancestors alive. But in modern leadership, this same wiring can destroy credibility, judgment, and long-term success if it is not trained. Leaders who cannot regulate emotions become unpredictable, and unpredictability erodes trust faster than incompetence. Emotional regulation is not suppression. It is awareness combined with choice. It is the ability to feel without being driven. And this ability separates leaders who inspire confidence from those who create tension. Think about the leaders you trust most. They don't panic publicly. They don't explode emotionally. They don't make decisions in emotional peaks or valleys. Their presence feels steady. That steadiness is not personality. It is trained nervous system control. Neuroscience shows that when emotions spike, especially fear, anger, or anxiety, the brain shifts control away from the prefrontal cortex, where reasoning and planning happen, to the limbic system, where survival reactions dominate. In that state, clarity decreases, impulses increase, perspective narrows, leadership disappears. This is why emotional regulation is not a soft skill. It is a strategic advantage. Consider someone like Warren Buffett again. His emotional stability during market crashes is legendary. While others panic, he stays calm. That calm is not emotional detachment. It is emotional mastery. His brain does not interpret volatility as danger. It interprets it as information. That difference alone has created enormous wealth and influence. Leaders who regulate emotions effectively do something most people never learn. They create space between stimulus and response. In that space lives choice, and choice is power. Without that space, leaders react. They speak too quickly. They defend unnecessarily. They make decisions they later regret. Over time, people sense this instability and adjust their behavior. Trust weakens. Influence fades. Now let's talk about why emotional regulation matters so deeply in the modern world. Today's environment is designed to trigger emotional responses. News cycles thrive on fear. Social media thrives on outrage. Workplaces operate under constant urgency. If you don't train emotional regulation deliberately, you will be emotionally hijacked daily without noticing. This is why so many leaders feel exhausted. It's not workload, it's emotional leakage. Constant micro-reactions drain mental energy. Over time, this creates burnout, cynicism, and poor judgment. Emotionally regulated leaders conserve energy. They don't waste attention on unnecessary reactions. They respond when response is useful. They remain silent when silence is powerful. This restraint creates authority. Think about someone like Satya Nadella again. His leadership style transformed Microsoft's culture from combative to collaborative. That shift required deep emotional intelligence. He modeled calm, empathy, and openness, not because he was passive, but because he was emotionally grounded. That emotional regulation changed decision-making at every level of the organization. Here's the shift that changes how you experience emotions. Emotions are data, not directives. Fear signals uncertainty. Anger signals boundaries. Anxiety signals perceived risk. But signals are not orders. Leaders who confuse emotion with instruction surrender control. Leaders who interpret emotion strategically maintain it. This applies to wealth, too. People who panic emotionally around money make poor financial decisions. They sell at the wrong time. They chase trends. They avoid opportunities out of fear. Emotionally regulated investors see volatility as normal. Their decisions remain consistent. The same applies to conflict. Emotionally unregulated leaders escalate situations unnecessarily. Emotionally regulated leaders de-escalate without losing authority. That skill alone can transform teams, relationships, and outcomes. Now bring this to your own life. Notice when emotions arise, not to suppress them, to observe them. Observation activates the prefrontal cortex. It shifts control back to reasoning. The moment you name an emotion internally, its intensity decreases. You regain choice. This is not theory, it is brain chemistry. When you pause before reacting, even briefly, your nervous system recalibrates. Over time, this creates emotional resilience. You don't stop feeling, you stop being ruled. This is why leaders with emotional regulation appear confident, even when uncertain. Their confidence comes from self-trust, not from certainty. They trust their ability to respond wisely regardless of emotion. Emotional regulation also deepens empathy. When you are not consumed by your own emotional reactions, you can perceive others clearly. This improves communication, negotiation, and influence. Look at leaders who fail publicly. Often, their downfall is not strategic error, but emotional mismanagement. One reaction, one outburst, one impulsive decision. Reputation collapses. Leadership magnifies emotion. That's why emotional discipline is non-negotiable. The world does not need emotionless leaders. It needs emotionally intelligent ones. When you regulate emotions, you become a stabilizing force. People relax around you. They think more clearly. They perform better. This is invisible leadership at its highest level. Here is the final realization that anchors this topic. You cannot control external pressure, but you can control your internal response. That control determines whether pressure sharpens you or breaks you. Emotionally regulated leaders turn pressure into precision. When your nervous system is trained, leadership becomes sustainable. Decisions become cleaner. Relationships become stronger. Results become consistent. Regulate your emotions, and you reclaim your authority from within. From that place, leadership stops being reactive and becomes intentional, calm, and powerful. Topic 5. Think in systems, not events. The leader's ability to see what others miss. If you want to understand why some leaders seem to anticipate problems before they happen, why they scale results while others stay busy, and why wealth compounds for a few while effort exhausts the many, you need to understand one mental upgrade: systems thinking. Leaders who think in systems don't react to life. They design it. Most people live event to event. A problem appears, they react. A result happens, they celebrate or panic. A crisis shows up, they scramble. This creates motion, stress, and exhaustion, but very little leverage. Event-based thinking keeps you trapped in firefighting mode. Systems-based thinking frees you into architecture mode. Leadership begins the moment you stop asking, "What happened?" and start asking, "What produced this outcome?" Systems thinking trains the brain to look beyond surface events and see patterns, structures, feedback loops, and leverage points. This is not abstract theory. It is the core mental skill behind scalable leadership, sustainable wealth, and long-term influence. Look at Ray Dalio again. His success at Bridgewater wasn't built on predicting markets perfectly. It was built on building decision-making systems that performed regardless of emotion, ego, or short-term noise. He externalized thinking into principles. He designed processes that corrected themselves. That's systems thinking in action. Leaders who think in systems don't rely on motivation or heroic effort. They rely on design. Here's why this matters neurologically. The brain loves simple cause and effect stories. Something happens, someone is to blame, a reaction follows. But reality is rarely linear. Outcomes are usually the result of multiple interacting variables over time. When leaders oversimplify reality, they make fragile decisions. When they understand systems, they make resilient ones. Wealth is a system. Leadership is a system. Health is a system. Culture is a system. And systems always outperform willpower. Think about how most people approach productivity. They try to push harder, work longer, and motivate themselves endlessly. That's event thinking. Leaders who think in systems redesign workflows, environments, and incentives so results happen naturally. Less effort, more output. This is why high-performing organizations obsess over processes. Amazon doesn't rely on individual brilliance. It relies on systems that produce consistency at scale. When a leader leaves, the system remains. That's real power. Now bring this to personal leadership. If you keep repeating the same problems, it's not bad luck. It's a system doing exactly what it was designed to do. Results are not accidents, they are signals. They tell you how your system is structured. Financial stress is not just about income, it's about spending systems, decision systems, emotional systems around money. Burnout is not just workload, it's recovery systems, boundary systems, attention systems. Leaders who fail to see systems blame themselves or others. Leaders who see systems change the structure. This shift changes everything emotionally. When you understand systems, you stop personalizing outcomes. You stop oscillating between ego and shame. You gain objectivity. You move from emotional reaction to strategic adjustment. That objectivity is calming. It reduces stress. It increases confidence. Because now problems feel solvable, not overwhelming. Think about Elon Musk again. Whether it's Tesla, SpaceX, or Neuralink, his approach is systems first. He breaks problems down to first principles, then rebuild systems that outperform existing ones. That mindset allows him to tackle challenges others consider impossible, not because he works harder, but because he sees deeper. And this applies at every level of leadership, not just extreme cases. If you manage a team, systems thinking means you don't fix people, you fix environments. If performance drops, you don't immediately criticize individuals. You examine incentives, communication flows, feedback loops, and clarity of goals. If you lead yourself, systems thinking means you stop relying on motivation. You design routines, environments, and habits that make success inevitable rather than optional. This is why systems thinkers experience less burnout. Their success doesn't depend on mood, it depends on structure. Now let's talk about abundance. Scarcity thinking focuses on isolated events. One missed opportunity feels catastrophic. One failure feels final. Abundance thinking understands systems. One loss is part of a larger process. One setback is feedback, not identity. This mindset stabilizes emotion and sharpens judgment. Systems thinkers also understand delayed effects. Not all actions produce immediate results. Some systems compound silently. Wealth compounds, trust compounds, reputation compounds, health compounds. Leaders who understand this don't panic when progress feels slow. They know momentum is building beneath the surface. This is why impatient leaders sabotage their own systems. They change direction too quickly. They abandon processes before results appear. They confuse motion with improvement. Systems thinking requires patience, which you trained in Topic 1. It requires focus, which you trained in Topic 2. It requires stable identity, which you trained in Topic 3. And it requires emotional regulation, which you trained in Topic 4. Everything connects. Now here's a critical realization. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems. This is why goal setting alone is insufficient. Goals create direction. Systems create outcomes. Leaders who obsess over goals but ignore systems experience cycles of hope and disappointment. Leaders who design systems experience steady progress. Look at long-term wealth builders. They automate saving, investing, and decision-making. They reduce friction. They remove emotion from routine choices. That's systems thinking applied to money. Look at exceptional leaders. They create cultures where values guide decisions even when they're not present. That's systems thinking applied to influence. Now ask yourself this: where in your life are you treating symptoms instead of structures? Where are you reacting to events instead of redesigning systems? Where could one structural change remove 10 recurring problems? This question alone elevates leadership. When you start thinking in systems, your brain shifts from survival mode to design mode. You stop asking, "How do I handle this?" and start asking, "How do I prevent this from recurring?" That shift reduces stress and multiplies results. And here's the final truth that anchors this topic. Leaders who think in systems don't chase control. They create conditions. They don't force outcomes. They design environments where outcomes emerge naturally. That is the quiet power behind scalable leadership, sustainable wealth, and lasting success. Once your brain learns to see systems instead of isolated events, complexity becomes manageable, chaos becomes information, and leadership becomes architecture, not reaction. Topic 6. Make decisions from vision, not from fear. How great leaders train their brain to choose correctly under pressure. At some point, every leader realizes a difficult truth. Success is not limited by effort, intelligence, or opportunity. It is limited by decision-making quality. And decision-making quality is limited by one thing above all others: fear. Fear does not always feel dramatic. Most of the time, it feels reasonable. It disguises itself as caution, realism, logic, or responsibility. But when fear quietly guides decisions, leadership shrinks, vision narrows, potential gets negotiated down to safety. The leaders who build extraordinary results are not fearless. They are fear-aware, and that difference changes everything. Your brain is designed to protect you from danger. That's useful when danger is real. But in leadership, business, wealth, and growth, perceived danger often replaces real danger. The fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of being wrong, the fear of losing control. These fears activate the same neural circuits as physical threats, even when no real danger exists. When fear dominates decision-making, the brain prioritizes short-term safety over long-term value. It chooses what reduces discomfort now instead of what creates impact later. And that is how leaders slowly abandon vision without realizing it. Look at how many talented people play small, not because they lack ability, but because they avoid decisions that stretch identity. They choose familiarity over expansion, approval over integrity, certainty over growth. Vision-based leaders do the opposite. They train their brain to tolerate uncertainty without interpreting it as danger. That training allows vision to guide decisions instead of fear. Think about Howard Schultz and Starbucks. When he envisioned Starbucks as a third place between home and work, many dismissed the idea as unrealistic. The safe decision would have been to keep it small, predictable, and local. Instead, Schultz made decisions anchored in vision, not fear. That vision guided expansion, culture, and customer experience. Fear would have produced a coffee shop. Vision produced a global brand. Fear-based decisions feel protective. Vision-based decisions feel expansive. Here's the neurological difference. Fear narrows attention, vision expands it. When fear is active, the brain scans for threats. When vision is active, the brain scans for possibilities. Leaders who understand this deliberately shift their internal state before making important decisions. They don't ask, "What could go wrong?" first. They ask, "What future am I building?" That question changes the brain's orientation from defense to creation. This does not mean ignoring risk. It means contextualizing risk within purpose. Warren Buffett once said that risk comes from not knowing what you're doing. Vision-based decision-making reduces risk by increasing clarity. Fear-based decision-making increases risk by increasing avoidance. The leaders who make the most consistent, high-quality decisions are not impulsive. They are anchored in values, anchored in long-term outcomes, anchored in identity. That anchoring stabilizes the nervous system. Fear-based leaders oscillate. One moment, confident. The next moment, hesitant. This inconsistency confuses teams, partners, and even themselves. Vision-based leaders may change strategies, but they don't abandon direction. This is especially critical in moments of pressure. Pressure reveals the decision-making operating system you've trained. If you've trained fear, pressure amplifies it. If you've trained vision, pressure sharpens it. Think about Elon Musk during moments when SpaceX was close to failure. Multiple launches failed. Funds were nearly exhausted. Fear would have demanded retreat. Vision demanded persistence. Musk's decisions were not reckless. They were aligned with a long-term objective so compelling that short-term fear lost its authority. Vision gives fear a place, but not the steering wheel. Now let's bring this to your leadership. Notice how fear shows up in decisions, not dramatically, but subtly. Delaying decisions, overanalyzing, seeking excessive approval, avoiding confrontation, choosing comfort over truth. These are not personality traits. They are fear-based strategies. And fear-based strategies create small leadership. Vision-based strategies create leverage. Vision does not mean grand dreams without execution. Vision means clarity about direction. It means knowing what you are building and why. That clarity acts like a compass when choices become complex. This is why leaders without vision feel overwhelmed by decisions. Every choice feels heavy because there is no guiding framework. Leaders with vision decide faster, not because choices are easier, but because priorities are clear. Decision fatigue decreases when vision increases. Wealth creation follows the same law. Fear-based financial decisions chase safety and miss opportunity. Vision-based financial decisions accept volatility as part of growth. Long-term investors don't panic at short-term fluctuations because their decisions are anchored in a future narrative they trust. This also applies to people management. Fear-based leaders avoid difficult conversations. Vision-based leaders engage them with clarity and empathy. Fear-based leaders seek approval. Vision-based leaders seek alignment. Now here's the mental reframe that changes decision-making permanently. You are not deciding between right and wrong. You are deciding between fear and vision. Fear asks, "What will I lose?" Vision asks, "What will this create?" Fear asks, "How do I protect myself?" Vision asks, "How do I serve the future I believe in?" When you consciously choose vision as your reference point, fear doesn't disappear. It loses authority. It becomes input, not command. This is a trainable skill. Before important decisions, vision-based leaders pause and reconnect with purpose. They ask themselves who they are becoming through this choice. That identity-based framing shifts brain chemistry. Stress decreases, clarity increases. Over time, this becomes automatic. Leaders who repeatedly choose vision build self-trust. They know they can make courageous decisions and survive discomfort. That self-trust compounds. Confidence grows. Influence expands. People feel safe following leaders who decide from vision because vision is stable. Fear is volatile. And here's the final realization that anchors this topic. Every decision is a vote for the future you will live in. Small decisions compound just like money. Fear-based decisions compound limitation. Vision-based decisions compound expansion. When you train your brain to decide from vision, leadership stops feeling heavy. You stop second-guessing yourself endlessly. You stop outsourcing confidence. You become decisive without being rigid, bold without being reckless, calm without being passive. That is the decision-making signature of great leaders. Make decisions from vision, and fear becomes information instead of interference. From that place, leadership becomes an act of creation rather than reaction. Topic 7. Train your brain to embrace discomfort. Why growth, wealth, and leadership live outside comfort. At some point on the path to leadership, success, and real prosperity, a difficult realization emerges. Comfort is not neutral. Comfort is not harmless. Comfort is conditioning, and if your brain is not trained to tolerate discomfort deliberately, it will quietly sabotage your growth while convincing you it is protecting you. Most people believe they avoid discomfort because it feels unpleasant. The truth is deeper. The brain avoids discomfort because it interprets unfamiliar sensations as danger, not because danger is present, but because certainty is absent. Leadership, wealth, and transformation all require repeated entry into uncertainty. That's why most people stop just before breakthroughs happen. Discomfort is the doorway, and the brain must be trained to walk through it calmly. Look closely at how successful leaders are formed. They are not shaped by moments of ease. They are shaped by moments where comfort was unavailable, yet purpose remained. That training does not happen accidentally. It happens through repeated exposure to challenge without retreat. Consider someone like Elon Musk again. The early years of Tesla and SpaceX were not glamorous. They were uncomfortable, uncertain, and emotionally brutal. Failure was public. Pressure was relentless. But Musk didn't interpret discomfort as a signal to stop. He interpreted it as evidence he was operating at the edge of possibility. That interpretation changed how his brain experienced stress. This is the critical distinction. Discomfort does not disappear at higher levels of success. It increases. The difference is how leaders relate to it. Untrained minds associate discomfort with threat. Trained minds associate discomfort with growth. Your brain is constantly learning from how you respond. When you avoid discomfort, you teach your nervous system that growth is unsafe. When you face discomfort intentionally, you teach it that challenge is survivable. Over time, this rewires fear into confidence. This is why so many people plateau, not because they lack ambition, but because they unconsciously protect comfort zones. They want new results without new sensations. But the brain doesn't work that way. New results require new experiences. New experiences require discomfort. Leadership demands this more than any other role. Leading means making unpopular decisions, having difficult conversations, taking responsibility when outcomes are uncertain, standing alone before standing supported. All of these produce discomfort. Leaders who haven't trained for it retreat into avoidance, delegation, or indecision. Wealth creation follows the same pattern. Building wealth requires uncertainty, tolerance. Investments fluctuate. Businesses face volatility. Opportunities appear disguised as risk. Those who flee discomfort chase stability and miss compounding. Those who endure discomfort build resilience and leverage. Think of Warren Buffett again. Market downturns don't feel comfortable. But Buffett's brain does not interpret volatility emotionally. It interprets it strategically. That difference turns discomfort into advantage. Discomfort is not the problem. Misinterpretation is. Now let's bring this to your internal experience. Notice how often discomfort triggers escape behaviors. Scrolling, distracting yourself, rationalizing delay, seeking reassurance. These are not moral failures. They are conditioning patterns, and conditioning can be reprogrammed. The moment you stay present inside discomfort without reacting, something powerful happens neurologically. The amygdala calms. The prefrontal cortex regains control. Your nervous system learns a new rule. I can handle this. That rule becomes confidence. Confidence is not the absence of discomfort. It is the belief that discomfort will not destroy you. This is why high performers intentionally seek controlled discomfort. Cold exposure, hard conversations, deep focus sessions, strategic risks. They are not punishing themselves. They are training tolerance. Training discomfort expands capacity. Look at athletes, elite military units, or top executives. Their training environment simulates stress intentionally. Why? Because stress reveals systems and strengthens them. Leaders who avoid stress never discover their true capacity, and this applies emotionally as well. Emotional discomfort, like receiving criticism, admitting mistakes, or confronting conflict, is where leadership credibility is built. Leaders who stay regulated and present during emotional discomfort earn trust. Leaders who avoid it lose respect quietly. The brain remembers how you show up under pressure. Now here's the paradox most people miss. Avoiding discomfort feels safe in the short term, but it creates anxiety in the long term. Facing discomfort feels unsafe in the short term, but it creates calm in the long term. This is why disciplined leaders often appear relaxed. Their nervous system is trained. It's not constantly surprised by challenge. Discomfort also sharpens clarity. When comfort disappears, distractions fall away. Priorities surface. Purpose becomes visible. This is why so many transformative moments occur during hardship. Hardship strips illusion. Leaders who understand this don't romanticize suffering, but they don't flee it either. They use it. This is also why growth accelerates when you stop negotiating with discomfort. The negotiation drains energy. The acceptance frees it. Think about moments in your life where growth happened quickly. Chances are discomfort was present, and chances are you didn't break. You adapted. That adaptation is evidence of capacity you may be underestimating. Leadership requires trusting that capacity. Now apply this to decision-making. Comfort-based decisions maintain the present. Discomfort-based decisions build the future. Leaders who repeatedly choose comfort over growth slowly trade potential for predictability. Leaders who choose growth over comfort build lives that feel expansive, meaningful, and powerful. This does not mean reckless discomfort. It means intentional discomfort aligned with vision. Vision gives discomfort meaning. Without vision, discomfort feels pointless. With vision, it feels purposeful. This is why people burn out when discomfort is forced without meaning. But they thrive when discomfort is chosen in service of something greater. Wealth, leadership, and mastery are not built through ease. They are built through intelligent strain, the kind that stretches capacity without breaking integrity. Here is the final realization that anchors this topic. Your comfort zone is not where you are safe. It is where you stop evolving. Every time you stay present in discomfort, you expand the range of what feels normal. Over time, challenges that once felt overwhelming become manageable, then trivial. That is growth in real time. Train your brain to embrace discomfort, and you stop fearing growth. You stop fearing leadership. You stop fearing your own potential. From that place, success is no longer something you chase. It is something you grow into naturally, one uncomfortable step at a time. Topic 8. Condition your brain for abundance, not scarcity. Why most people work hard but never feel free. At some point, every leader, entrepreneur, or ambitious professional must confront a hidden force that quietly shapes decisions, behaviors, and outcomes: the abundance or scarcity conditioning of the brain. This conditioning operates beneath logic, beneath intention, and often beneath awareness. And until it is addressed directly, success will feel fragile, money will feel stressful, and leadership will feel heavier than it should. Scarcity is not about lack of money. It is about lack of trust. Trust in the future, trust in oneself, trust in the idea that opportunities expand rather than disappear. Abundance, on the other hand, is not blind optimism. It is a trained perception of possibility combined with responsibility. Most people believe abundance comes after success. The truth is more confronting. Abundance thinking must come before success, or success will never feel safe once it arrives. Your brain is constantly scanning for signals of threat or opportunity. If it has been conditioned by fear, instability, comparison, or past loss, It will interpret neutral situations as risky. When this happens, the brain defaults to protection. It hoards, it hesitates, it overcontrols, it plays small while calling it realism. Leaders who operate from scarcity don't trust growth. They micromanage, they avoid delegation, they fear competition. They negotiate from fear rather than value. And even when they achieve results, anxiety remains because the nervous system never learned to feel safe with expansion. Now, consider leaders who operate from abundance. They don't rush decisions out of fear of missing out. They don't panic when outcomes fluctuate. They don't cling to control. They trust processes, people, and long-term value. That trust is not naive. It is trained. Look at someone like Oprah Winfrey again. Her success was not built on scarcity thinking. She did not see opportunity as limited or zero-sum. She built platforms, lifted others, invested in long-term influence. That abundance orientation allowed her to expand impact without fear of losing relevance. Her wealth grew because her mindset allowed expansion rather than contraction. Abundance is a neurological state. When the brain perceives abundance, creativity increases. Risk assessment improves. Collaboration becomes natural. When the brain perceives scarcity, tunnel vision appears. Short-term thinking dominates. Emotional reactivity increases. This is why scarcity leads to poor leadership decisions even in high performers. Scarcity makes leaders defensive. Abundance makes leaders strategic. Here's the uncomfortable truth most people avoid. You can earn more money and still think scarce. You can grow a business and still operate from fear. You can lead teams and still feel threatened by others' success. This is why abundance must be trained deliberately. It does not appear automatically with income or status. Scarcity conditioning often begins early. Messages about money being hard, opportunities being rare, mistakes being dangerous. Over time, these messages shape identity. The brain learns to associate expansion with risk instead of possibility. Leadership requires reversing that conditioning. This does not mean ignoring limits. It means interpreting limits accurately. Scarcity thinking exaggerates limits. Abundance thinking contextualizes them. Think about companies that collapse despite strong fundamentals. Often, leadership decisions driven by fear, cutting innovation, over-controlling talent, chasing short-term profit, destroy long-term value. Companies that endure invest during uncertainty. That is abundance thinking at scale. Amazon expanded aggressively during periods others pulled back. That expansion felt risky to scarcity-driven observers. But it was guided by a long-term abundance vision rooted in customer obsession and system building. Abundance thinking allows patience. Scarcity thinking demands urgency, and urgency often produces bad decisions. Now let's bring this inward. Notice how scarcity shows up in subtle ways. Overworking because rest feels unsafe. Undercharging because value feels fragile. Avoiding bold moves because loss feels catastrophic. These behaviors don't mean you lack ambition. They mean your nervous system has not been trained to feel safe with growth. The moment you begin conditioning your brain for abundance, your relationship with effort changes. You stop proving. You start building. You stop grasping. You start creating. Abundance thinking also transforms how you relate to others. Scarcity sees other people as competition. Abundance sees them as collaborators or multipliers. This shift alone changes leadership effectiveness. Teams perform better when leaders are not threatened by competence. Influence grows when leaders are generous with credit and opportunity. This is not just moral philosophy, it is strategic advantage. Neuroscience shows that when people feel psychologically safe, performance increases. Abundance-oriented leaders create that safety because they don't fear losing control. They trust expansion. Abundance thinking also stabilizes emotions around money. Money becomes a tool, not an emotional trigger. Decisions become calmer. Planning becomes clearer. Long-term strategies replace reactive moves. This is why many wealthy individuals say money solved logistical problems, but not emotional ones, unless mindset changed first. Conditioning abundance means training the brain to expect growth through contribution, not through force. It means seeing value creation as infinite rather than finite. It means understanding that prosperity expands when it circulates. This is why the most influential leaders invest in ecosystems, not just outcomes. They build networks, platforms, cultures, and systems. Scarcity builds walls. Abundance builds bridges. Now here's the paradox that unlocks abundance fully. Abundance does not eliminate discipline, it enhances it. Scarcity-driven discipline feels tight, anxious, and exhausting. Abundance-driven discipline feels purposeful, calm, and sustainable. Leaders still work hard. They simply don't work scared. This shift changes how pressure feels. Pressure no longer signals danger, it signals responsibility. And responsibility feels empowering rather than threatening. Ask yourself this honestly. When opportunity appears, does your first reaction lean toward expansion or protection? When resources increase, do you think about growth or loss? When success grows, do you feel grounded or anxious? These reactions reveal conditioning, not character. And conditioning can be changed. Every time you choose long-term value over short-term security, you train abundance. Every time you invest in people, systems, or learning despite uncertainty, you train abundance. Every time you refuse to make decisions from fear, you train abundance. Over time, the nervous system recalibrates. Growth feels safer, expansion feels natural, leadership feels lighter. This is why leaders who think abundantly often appear confident without arrogance, calm without passivity, generous without weakness. Their confidence comes from trust in process, not from control. Here is the final realization that anchors this topic. Scarcity keeps you surviving. Abundance allows you to lead. The brain cannot build extraordinary futures from a posture of fear. It must believe expansion is possible, manageable, and deserved. Condition your brain for abundance, and effort stops feeling like a fight. Success stops feeling fragile. Leadership stops feeling lonely. From that place, prosperity is not something you chase anxiously. It is something you allow, manage, and grow with intention. Topic 9. Build unbreakable self-trust. Why leaders who trust themselves win consistently. At the highest levels of leadership, success, and wealth, there is a quiet force that determines everything else. It's not charisma, it's not intelligence, it's not even confidence as most people define it. It is self-trust. And without it, no strategy holds, no vision lasts, and no growth feels stable. Self-trust is the ability to rely on your own judgment under uncertainty. It is knowing that even if outcomes are unpredictable, you will respond wisely. Leaders with self-trust don't need constant reassurance. They don't outsource their confidence to approval, titles, or validation. They stand firmly inside their own decision-making process. Most people think confidence comes from winning. In reality, confidence comes from keeping promises to yourself, and self-trust is built the same way trust is built with others, through consistency over time. When leaders lack self-trust, they hesitate, they overanalyze, they seek excessive opinions. They delay decisions until clarity disappears. This creates internal friction that others feel immediately. Teams sense it, partners sense it, markets sense it. Leadership cannot stabilize externally if it is unstable internally. Look at leaders who endure across decades. They are not perfect decision makers. They are resilient decision makers. They trust themselves enough to move forward, learn, adjust, and continue. That trust allows momentum to build. Think about someone like Oprah again. She made decisions that didn't always align with conventional wisdom. She turned down roles, walked away from opportunities, and redefined success on her terms. That required deep self-trust. Without it, fear would have dictated safer, smaller choices. Self-trust is also what allows leaders to withstand criticism. Without self-trust, criticism feels like identity threat. With self-trust, criticism becomes information. Leaders who trust themselves don't collapse emotionally when challenged. They listen without surrendering authority. This is critical in wealth creation. Markets fluctuate. Businesses face uncertainty. Strategies fail. Leaders without self-trust panic and abandon plans prematurely. Leaders with self-trust remain flexible without becoming reactive. They adjust intelligently instead of emotionally. Warren Buffett's success again reflects this principle. He does not chase trends. He trusts his process deeply enough to ignore noise. That trust was not born overnight. It was built through decades of consistent decision-making aligned with principles. Self-trust is also why some leaders feel calm while others feel anxious, even at the same level of success. Anxiety often comes from internal inconsistency, saying you'll do something and not doing it, knowing the right decision and avoiding it. Each broken promise erodes self-trust silently. This erosion accumulates. The brain keeps score. When you repeatedly ignore your own standards, your nervous system learns that your internal signals are unreliable. Doubt increases. Hesitation grows. Confidence fades. Rebuilding self-trust starts with alignment. Alignment between values and actions, between intention and execution, between vision and behavior. This does not require perfection. It requires honesty. Leaders with self-trust are honest with themselves about what they will and will not do. They set realistic commitments and honor them. That consistency creates internal safety. This is why self-trust reduces stress. When you trust yourself, your nervous system relaxes. It knows you won't abandon yourself under pressure. That internal safety frees mental energy for creativity and strategy. Self-trust also transforms discipline. Discipline stops being force and becomes identity. You don't need external motivation when you trust your ability to follow through. You act because it's who you are, not because you're trying to prove something. Now, let's talk about decision-making again. Leaders without self-trust delay decisions because they fear regret. Leaders with self-trust understand that regret comes not from wrong decisions, but from avoidance. They accept that imperfect action is better than perfect paralysis. Self-trust allows leaders to commit. Commitment creates momentum. Momentum creates confidence. Confidence reinforces self-trust. This is a virtuous cycle that compounds over time. This is also why self-trust attracts followers. People don't follow leaders who appear unsure internally. They follow leaders who move with quiet certainty. That certainty does not mean arrogance. It means groundedness. Teams perform better when leaders trust themselves because direction becomes clear. Boundaries become consistent. Feedback becomes constructive instead of defensive. Self-trust also protects leaders from burnout. Burnout often comes from living out of alignment, saying yes when you mean no, carrying responsibilities that don't align with purpose, chasing goals that aren't truly yours. Self-trust gives leaders permission to choose deliberately, and this matters deeply in abundance. Abundance requires trust. Trust that effort compounds. Trust that value attracts opportunity. Trust that you can handle growth without losing yourself. Scarcity collapses without self-trust because fear fills the gap. Self-trust also sharpens intuition. Intuition is not magical. It is pattern recognition developed through experience and reflection. Leaders who trust themselves listen to intuition without becoming impulsive. They balance instinct with reasoning. This balance creates powerful decision-making. Now bring this inward. Ask yourself honestly, do you trust yourself to follow through? Do you trust your judgment when outcomes are uncertain? Do you trust yourself to respond wisely when things don't go as planned? If the answer feels shaky, that's not failure. It's feedback. Self-trust can be rebuilt intentionally. Start small. Make commitments you can keep. Speak truthfully to yourself. Act in alignment even when uncomfortable. Each aligned action repairs trust. Over time, the nervous system learns a new rule. I can rely on myself. That rule changes everything. Leaders with self-trust don't need to control others. They don't need constant validation. They don't need certainty to act. They move forward with integrity. And here is the final realization that anchors this topic. You will never outperform the level of trust you have in yourself. You can borrow confidence temporarily from success, but lasting leadership requires internal reliability. When you trust yourself, fear loses leverage. Doubt loses authority. Pressure becomes manageable. From that place, leadership feels steady. Wealth feels navigable. Success feels sustainable. Build unbreakable self-trust, and the world stops shaking you from the inside out. Topic 10. The leader you become decides the life you live. The final integration of brain, power, and purpose. If you've stayed with me until now, something important has already happened. Not intellectually, internally. Because this journey was never about collecting techniques. It was about reshaping how you experience yourself as a leader, a decision maker, and a creator of your own future. Leadership is not a position you reach. It is a state you embody. Everything we explored was pointing to a single truth most people never fully accept. Your brain is the real leadership tool, not your title. not your resume, not your circumstances. The quality of your life, your wealth, your influence, and your peace is directly proportional to how intentionally you train your mind. Think about what you've just built, layer by layer. You trained patience instead of impulse. You reclaimed attention in a world addicted to distraction. You upgraded identity instead of chasing motivation. You learned to regulate emotion instead of being ruled by it. You shifted from reacting to designing systems. You chose vision over fear. You embraced discomfort instead of escaping it. You conditioned abundance instead of scarcity. You built self-trust instead of self-doubt. These are not hacks. They are identity upgrades. Most people spend their lives trying to change results without changing the internal structure producing them. They wonder why success feels unstable, why motivation fades, why wealth creates stress instead of freedom. The answer is simple but uncomfortable. They built outcomes on an untrained mind. You don't rise to the level of your desires. You stabilize at the level of your nervous system. That is why this matters so deeply. Because when your brain is trained, life stops feeling like a constant negotiation with fear. Decisions stop draining you. Pressure stops overwhelming you. Success stops feeling fragile. Leadership stops feeling lonely. This is what separates real leaders from performers. Performers rely on external validation. Leaders rely on internal alignment. Performers collapse when conditions change. Leaders adapt because identity is stable. Performers chase confidence. Leaders generate it through consistency. This is why the world doesn't need louder leaders. It needs grounded ones. Leaders who don't panic under pressure. Leaders who don't abandon values for comfort. Leaders who don't outsource responsibility to circumstances. The most powerful leaders you admire didn't wake up one day confident, disciplined, or abundant. They became that way by training their minds repeatedly, often quietly, often without applause. And over time, the external world adjusted to match the internal one. This is not motivational fantasy. This is cause and effect. When your brain is trained, you stop asking life for permission. You stop waiting to feel ready. You stop postponing growth until conditions are perfect. You act from clarity, not urgency, from purpose, not pressure. And here's the truth that changes how you see everything. Leadership is not about control. It is about capacity. The capacity to hold uncertainty without collapsing. The capacity to make decisions without emotional hijack. The capacity to grow without losing yourself. The capacity to succeed without fear of falling apart. That capacity lives in the brain you train every day through small choices. Every time you pause instead of react. Every time you focus instead of scatter. Every time you act in alignment instead of comfort. Every time you trust yourself instead of doubting. Those moments compound, and one day, you realize something profound. You are no longer trying to be a leader. You simply are one. People feel it before you speak. They trust it before you explain. They follow it because it's stable. This is how influence is built. This is how wealth becomes sustainable. This is how success stops feeling temporary. The future does not belong to the most aggressive, the loudest, or the fastest. It belongs to those who can think clearly while others panic, stay patient while others rush, and act deliberately while others react. It belongs to trained minds. And now, the responsibility shifts to you. Not to do everything at once, not to be perfect, but to be intentional. Leadership is practiced in ordinary moments, in how you respond to stress, in how you handle delay, in how you treat your attention, in how you speak to yourself when no one is watching. That's where real power is built. If you integrate what you've learned here, not perfectly but consistently, your life will begin to reorganize itself. Opportunities will feel different. Pressure will feel manageable. Growth will feel natural instead of forced. And one day, you'll look back and realize the most important success wasn't money, status, or recognition. It was becoming someone you trust, someone you respect, someone capable of carrying the life you envisioned without breaking under it. That is leadership. That is prosperity. That is the power of a trained brain. And this is only the beginning. If this video helped you see leadership, success, and wealth from a deeper perspective, don't let this be a one-time insight. Transformation happens through repetition, not inspiration. Subscribe to Success and Prosperity Code and train your mind every week with strategies that actually change how you think, decide, and lead. Like this video, so YouTube knows this message matters. Comment below which insight hit you the hardest. because naming it is the first step to integrating it. And share this video with someone you know is meant to lead more, grow more, and live with greater purpose. Remember, you don't rise to the life you want. You rise to the leader you become. Stay intentional, stay grounded, and I'll see you in the next video.